Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. Joining us this morning in the studio is United Kingdom certified specialist community practitioner. She has over 13 years experience in the UK working with the National Health Service, specializing in community nursing and bringing healthcare closer to home. She'll be speaking on the need for our society to imbibe the culture of engaging caregivers, highlighting the immense benefit, especially for elderly who are often lonely in their old age and mostly lack good medical attention. Welcome to the studio, Ugomma Okorie Wright. Welcome. You look beautiful in white. You can join the conversation by calling us on 0810 7641 679, or you can tweet to us at x.com. We'd love to hear from you. So we'll be discussing health, Our previous conversation highlighted conversations around maternal mortality, and, now we're talking about the importance of caregivers. And for me, I look at it and I feel that as a country, there is the largest room is the room for improvement. Yeah. There is room for improvement in Nigeria. And we're talking about doctors and nurses, but some people would not die just if they have caregivers. And we are now training caregivers for diaspora as opposed to training caregivers to serve the market here. So how are you trying to create intervention in this space?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So what it is, and a lot of the times on the show, people talk about people going abroad, but I'm doing the reverse, bringing that knowledge and skill back home, because there is a gap.
That's the term for that is Jackpada.
There is a gap. There is a gap in our Nigerian healthcare system, and there is nobody in this room that hasn't received healthcare at some point.
Of course.
And it's looking at what do we, as a patient, what kind of care are you looking to get and what kind of care are you looking to receive? And from a personal experience, I've had people who've received care in Nigeria and it's been lacking, particularly the older ones. So with JAPA, the younger ones are leaving, the doctors are leaving, the nurses are leaving, they're taking their knowledges, everybody is going, but who is going to look after the parents? And then when they go there, they are then worried about their parents and how they look after them.
Exactly.
So our culture, usually is, your parents get older, you look after them, they move in with you. That's the Nigerian culture norm as we know it. But over time, with JAPA as it started, we have now adopted the culture of having care homes. Which is not normal. And even when you go, when I say it's not normal, it's not that it's abnormal, but it's not what we are known for, and it's not what we are used to. Exactly. And even when you go in diaspora, when you have people who are going into care homes, it's a very difficult thing for them because you're uprooting them from their home, where sometimes they've lived for 40, 50 years, their whole entire lives, and moving them to a facility. So it's very difficult. So in the UK, we are already, for the past 10 years, we've been working towards removing healthcare from the hospital and the acute settings and bringing the care closer to home. So that has been that's where our 10-year plan is going. So we're actually looking at pooling resources, and there is no kind of care, medical, physiotherapists, speech and language therapists, even end of life is now being brought to the community at home. And that's what I'm looking to do here as well. So if you have so I'll use my own personal experience. My late grandmother from my father's side, my paternal grandmother, passed away from Alzheimer's. It was a very difficult time for us. And I remember very clearly at the time, I would be on the phone to my auntie and she would tell me what they're doing, and I'll just keep barking instructions, tell them to do this, tell them to do that. And it wasn't happening, and I was full of frustration. And over time, I have had times where I have friends who are in the same situation, and I'm giving them advice on what to do, and I'm, sort of consulting, so to speak, with them on how to support their families at home, or sometimes even going to pay visits to their family members to sort of give advice. And then that sort of got me thinking, why don't we, or why don't I, it starts with one person, isn't it? Why don't I look at a way to bring that quality, that knowledge, those skills that I have back home and train people here to deliver the care here. So when I started my company 18 months ago, a lot of the time, when people hear home health care service provider, they immediately they hear home and they hear care and they think care home. So I have to start that education to say it's not a care home. We are bringing the care to you in your own home.
Now, let me before we go into what you're doing in Nigeria, I think that because of what we've been discussing before you joined the show, I would like us to take a more broad perspective. That yes, we know that the healthcare for elderly is lacking. We know that caregivers are not really caring, and maybe the number isn't enough. But we do have institutions now. How do you think from what you said, there's an economy around it. How viable is the economy of caregiving in Nigeria? And how can people tap into that opportunity?
It's a very niche market at the moment. And it's something that people have to be very, very careful about. I think we need to have a lot more structured legal framework around it. So not just have a company pop up and say we're providing care, but what are the registrations you need to do to be a recognized, registered caregiving company? Either you have a care home or you deliver care in people's homes. That needs to be regimented and regulated. A lot is happening in Lagos State and a lot is happening in Nigeria. And the doctor that left said Nigerians are very intelligent, and that's true. We are amazing. We are extremely intelligent. But it's what do we do with that knowledge and that care?
Yes.
And anyway, sorry, go on.
Finish up.
Because when you hear caregiving, we do the training. So I deliver a lot of training, and I have also what's it called now? I've forgotten the word I was going to say, but I have collaborated with a company in the UK as well, so that all the training that I deliver are UK certified.
Okay. So what states exactly are you operational in? One, and then secondly, how do you? We've seen cases where caregivers begin to abuse the people they're taking care of. So how do you also forestall against elder abuse from
I think that's even the real
that's the cocoa, because I was going to ask that because I have a friend who is using a professional caregiving company and they were abusing her mom. Her mother has Alzheimer's. This one, I even just heard it on Saturday. Many of them. Then even the Nigerian ones in England are abusing the ones in England too.
It's true.
So
it's true.
How are we going to change? How are you going to make sure? Are you going to put camera on their neck?
In any country and in any society, there is always a bad egg. However, within every organization, you don't also have to look at the steps and the checks the checks and balances you put in place. So when I said about having legal frameworks that manage these companies, also put them in check, because if you're coming to check not just criteria but qualifications of people, and if everybody is checking somebody, so if we have organizations that check us as companies, we'll be forced to also check our people. And it's giving the families voices as well, and giving everybody a voice to be able to speak up. So before I talk about the general population, if I use my company, for example, when we train people, we train them not just in the usual care certificate that is normal, but we train them in safeguarding of adults and safeguarding of young ones. And we also train them to recognize the different types of abuse, because it's not just your physical abuse and your financial abuse. You have your institutional abuse, like you mentioned. You have your acts of omissions and neglect. You have your emotional abuse and your psychological abuse. So we train them to recognize those, and also recognize when it's not coming from them, but also from the family they're looking after. So sometimes you will have your situation where maybe the main financier of the family lives abroad, and then they have cousins, uncles, whatever, looking after the older person. And they're the ones who are actually even abusing that older person. So we give them the skills and the bravery to recognize that and to escalate it to us, so we can then start to have conversations with who we've identified as the next of kin to say, this is what's happening. So where it comes to our own staff, if we recognize, if we even get a hint of that happening, the person is fired immediately. Because the challenges we're having at the moment, because it's a very niche market and people are recognizing there's something called caregiving. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is coming to say I'm a caregiver. So, and oh my goodness. And sometimes it's not just I'm a caregiver because I've looked after my grandmother when she was young, or I looked after my cousins when they were kids. But it's about, do you have that compassion in you to actually really care for someone?
That's where my question will come from. So the way we've done it here is that you don't need a medical knowledge background for it. You either love the person or your familial relation with the person.
It's a responsibility.
So it's your responsibility. Yeah. So is there anything in how we've done it that you're trying to, adopt or improve upon so that works? Because I would never leave my mom with a total stranger, no matter how medically qualified the person is.
True.
What I would do is, always have my mom closer to me. Although my grandma is with my cousins, but my mom, I can't imagine none of us being around her. Exactly. So what exactly are you going to give me are you willing to give a family member some form of training so that they can improve their care?
So there are people that come just to train themselves, and we deliver the training and they go. So if, for example, with your case and your mom, you don't want anybody else, you want it to be just you and your mom, we can train you. We can train you on all the relevant things you need to know. We can train you on things like even catheter care, should she get in that need where she's need for it. We can train you to recognize signs of infection, to recognize when the health is deteriorating, to be able to even take the vital signs and know what they mean. Because it's not just to take the blood pressure, it's do you know what that blood pressure means? So people would say to you, oh, we'll go and get someone from the village. Or sometimes I even get asked, what's the difference between a professional caregiver and that person I pick from the village to come and help out? But the difference is the clinical knowledge that they have to recognize what's going wrong with the person. So it can be the simplest basic things. So when we do our trainings, we give out scenarios and we ask you, do you notice any red flags? Because if it's, for example, let me use for example. So one of the questions
I a stroke.
Pardon?
How would you know if the person is having a stroke? There's some little things. Is the person having? Is the person about to slump? Like you are not. People are not paying attention.
Exactly, and recognizing those signs. And sometimes the signs of stroke is not your usual fast that they say, the face drooping, the words. But sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it could just be a headache, an ongoing headache. People present in different ways. People think if you're going to have a heart attack, you'll have a sudden chest pain and then that's it. Women present differently. We don't get the pain down our hand. We get it on this other side.
Wow.
So it's about knowing what's what, and
that's what the training covers.
Different ages, different ethnicities, so when you're looking at your white person versus your black person, the way we present in ear health is very, very different. The way your older person presents is very, very different. So sometimes when I train my people, or even when I interview them, one of the questions I tend to ask them is, what would you do if the older person you're looking after refuses to eat or bathe, or what would you do? And it's amazing the kind of things that I hear. But sometimes when we go further to probe, because there's so many things, it could be, and my grandmother, when she was alive, went on a hunger strike because she wanted to speak to my dad, who had traveled at the time. So it's about probing a bit further. Why is that person not eating? Why is that person not showering? Or is it because, okay, so you ask them to shower today, tomorrow they refuse, you then went, oh, they're used to that, and then you leave them, you don't clean them up. So you have to keep probing, you have to keep asking. Maybe they're not feeling well. Maybe there's something going on that they don't even know how to articulate, and so they will just tell you they're not hungry. Your older person, when they start, because there's a natural cycle to life. When you start to deteriorate in health, the first thing they do is they stop swallowing. Swallowing is the first thing that happens at the last stages of life. So, and before they stop swallowing, they will tell you, oh, I'm not hungry. So you look at, then at that point, what am I giving that person to eat? If they we like our protein in Nigeria, we like our meat and all those things. So if they like to eat meat, how else am I processing that food? Can I make it a softer diet and see if they will try?
We're almost out of time. I would like you to address using family members, the dangers of using family members as caregivers, and the benefits of using professionals.
I wouldn't say there's a danger per se for using family members.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say there's a danger.
Will you know the sign of it? Do you know the sign of it?
She said she
go for training.
There are pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's recognizing with family members. Family is a very dynamic and can be very complicated. With family members, is recognizing and having the courage to call out bad practice. So you might be, let me use my lovely sister here. Maybe you're looking after your mom, and I'm not saying you're looking after her badly, but maybe you're not doing something quite right.
Exactly.
And your younger one notices something, but they don't have the courage to tell you. So it's about having that courage to call out the bad practice you see.
Let me throw in one more question.
Yeah,
like,
go
how
on.
much would you pay to take care of an aged person?
And the location.
The older it goes, do you need to increase the money?
Is it expensive?
Well, it's
Your
not
location.
expensive. It's very affordable.
Okay.
Well, at least for mine, I've made it very affordable because I don't want it to be
Naira and Kobo, give us a
Naira and Kobo.
a range.
A range. I'll probably say I won't probably say it starts from about 150 a month.
Okay.
But if you break that down, that's like about 5,000 Naira a day.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's location because we're running out of time. So at the moment we work remotely and we work as well. So we've got offices in Enugu State and Lagos State. Lagos is our HQ, but we work remotely. So we have clients that are in other places, Owerri, Abuja. I always make a joke and say the only place we won't go to is Sambisa Forest, but we go everywhere. So it's where the person needs us. We've got staff who are also willing to travel.
So my own person is in Sambisa Forest.
Sorry, throw that in.
You have to train the trees to do
They don't go to the forest.
Yeah.
She won't leave.
But I think the final words, I don't know how much more longer we have. I think the last words for me is just recognizing the fact that when we did our census in 2023, 3% of our population, which equates to 6.8 million or something, are age 65 and older.
Wow.
And the statistics have been predicted that will triple. Yeah, that would
She need a caregiver.
Not
she's
yet.
still active. Yeah, that would triple by 2050. So it's about educating ourselves, educating our families, recognizing when we need help. Because sometimes a professional caregiver is there to help you to be able to live your life and not be stressed and not fall sick.
Thank you so much.
Because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Way to end this show. You might not necessarily be that your parents need the help, but you need the help so that you can refuel yourself and still have a life while giving your parents a quality life in their later years. Thank you so much for exposing us to the market of caregiving in Nigeria. I am sure many people are now going to start studying how they can enter the industry as well. We've had with us Ugomma Okorie Wright. Yes, legitimately with proper training before you go into any interest, not just for commercial benefits. That's all we can take on the show. It's been a very healthy, loaded show. If you missed any part of it, catch the replay on YouTube. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye. Thank you, ladies.